Well, good morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Jobu Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. I came through, I did my morning video and things talking about Zeke Elliott, whether or not he was done or what can we look for him for next year. And my premise is if we fix the offensive line, we'll be in better shape. And that's easier said than done. And while I was uploading, I came across this clip from Dan Orlovsky. Dan Orlovsky, of course, the famous Detroit Lion quarterback who ran out of the back of the end zone and caused a safety, which ended up being the loss for the Detroit Lions, who is now one of the talking heads for ESPN and always seems to have all of the answers for the Dallas Cowboys. Be that as it may, that he did say that Carson Wentz has a Hall of Fame pedigree. Interesting thing that I came across and got me thinking again and reminding me one of the things that I had actually loved the Dallas Cowboys were doing this year, which was 12 personnel. I agree with a lot of things that he says in this clip, with the exception of that we should trade Amari Cooper. However, the premise that he has is actually really good, because in the end, when you become one-dimensional, when teams know what you're trying to do, it's a lot easier to stop you. This age, with the speed of the players, they can react so quickly. So you have to have an edge. You have to have the unknown. And for the Dallas Cowboys this past year, when the offensive line started getting hurt and Zeke Elliott had the PCL injury, we became more one-dimensional. Some of the games we only rushed for like 50, 75 yards. And teams know that, hey, we're going to be able to sell out on the quarterback, and we're going to be able to get to him because the offensive line isn't that stout, and we're going to be able to get to him before they can get the ball down the field. And that's because they knew basically what you were going to do. So in the NFL, you want to have the mystery and make them have to cover all bases. And one of the things that worked well for the Cowboys last year was 12 personnel. Now, I'm old school, i.e. I'm old, and I love a two tight end setup. With Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz, both two guys that could catch the football, it added another level of deception. And it actually, you could take what the defense gives you. I'll go into it deeper. Let me go to the clip, because I want you guys to actually hear this clip, because it's not often that Dan Orlovsky says something that's good.
I think the Cowboys can and should trade Amari Cooper, mainly because I think they're a better team in 12 personnel, one back, two tight ends, than they are in 11 personnel, one back, one tight end. And I think you could trade Amari Cooper because I think outside of Dak Prescott, when it comes to their pass game, the most important person on their offense is Dalton Schultz, who's a free agent to be, their tight end. And if it comes down to Amari Cooper at his salary or Dalton Schultz, you should make sure that you take that money that you might be able to recoup in trade value and sign Dalton Schultz. This guy has emerged as a big-time player. You see the statistics when Cowboys are in 12 personnel. They're the third best 12 personnel team in football behind the Ravens, which have such a unique offense, and the Patriots, who have two superstars in Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. I think that when you look at tape and watch this Cowboys pass game and you say, who is the receiver target that Dak Prescott trusts the most, that believes in the most, it's Dalton Schultz. And the numbers prove when Dak Prescott throws the ball to him, he performs at a level better than basically anybody in the league. Look at this. If you told everybody at home, hey, Dak Prescott to Dalton Schultz is better than Brady to Evans, you'd be like, what? Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp?
So I think skipping over Joe Burrow and T. Higgins as well.
Really good duos, but that's the best duo when it comes to those two connecting with each other. And that's why I think fundamentally, offensively, they're better with two tight ends on the field. And certainly keeping Dalton Schultz over Amari Cooper is more important for their offense.
Okay, so let's go into that a little bit deeper. I'm not one that I think that you really want both, because quite frankly, if you could go 12 personnel and have Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb as your two receivers, the thing about 12 personnel is this, okay? Because you're probably thinking, why would I want to have a tight end to be the pass catcher as opposed to having like Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper? That's opposite of what you think. Well, the thing is if you have a pass-catching tight end, and I'm not saying that Dalton Schultz is necessarily the answer, because you need a pass-catching tight end who can also block well too. Because ultimately, here's the thing. if your offensive line is doing great things and you're able to run the football, you're forcing the defense to put 8 men in the box to try and stop the run, right? And when you come out in 2 tight end set, that's traditionally a running formation. So teams are going to be in a heavy package against you, right? Which means you're going to have more one-on-one coverage for your wide receivers. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, they're going to be one-on-one because you can't cover everybody. You can't double cover and put 8 men in the box. It does not work. And if that's the case, if you have 2 pass-catching tight ends, they become receivers. You do quick hitting. They become the security blanket. And you go through and you basically are able to pick your poison because the defense is looking, we've got to stop the run. If, by chance, the defense doesn't put 8 men in the box, they go ahead with normal coverage, right? Nickel coverage, they're going to stay in that because, we got 2 wide receivers and 2 tight ends, so that's 4 receivers. We're going to stay in a nickel coverage. Then you use those guys to run the football because now you've got numbers that you can run. And statistically for the Dallas Cowboys to be 3rd in the league in 12 personnel is phenomenal. You can do so many things in that formation. It doesn't sound like it's a passing formation, but it can be if you have pass-catching wide receivers. We're not talking about old-school tight ends that are just blocking. They're basically taking an offensive lineman and making him a tackle. No, you need a hybrid between an offensive lineman and a receiver. And here's where actually it could all really come together because, as we talked about a couple of nights ago, that Semi Fehiko is going to have an increased role. We're talking about a hybrid position. So this is where seeing Dan Orlovsky made the light bulb come on. You can't just continue to do the same thing. We were having a discussion, me and my wife and a friend and stuff, that it doesn't matter how big you are. If you do not evolve and change, you are getting worse, and you will eventually die. Others will figure out what you're doing and do it better, faster, stronger, cheaper, and become the next thing. You could look at Barnes & Noble and Amazon. They were both booksellers. Amazon decided, let's get into audiobooks. Let's get into selling other things. Let's get into delivering. And you see Amazon, is now becoming partners with the NFL. Barnes & Noble and, all those places are about out of business. Amazon evolved. So, enter 12 personnel, something the Cowboys did great. They did great. Only Baltimore and New England were better in 12 personnel than the Dallas Cowboys. And there's going to be a lot of good free agent tight ends out there, if you end up getting another really good tight end, and you take Semi, who is 6'3", he's a little bit light as a tight end, but he's got the height that you need. He can put on a little bit of muscle. They want to increase his role. And this is kind of thinking back to when we had a guy like a Rico Gathers. I hate to bring back Rico Gathers, but Rico Gathers was kind of a freak because before they said, we need you to be a blocker, he could jump, he could run. He was the type of guy you could say, go to the pylon, and we're going to throw it to you for a jump ball. But the Cowboys screwed that up. Semi, we've talked about being the hybrid wide receiver tight end. And you could use that as a hybrid offense. I'm not saying that Semi's going to be a great blocker, but sometimes a tight end just needs to be able to get in the guy's way to have the threat of this. And if he can catch the ball and get downfield better than, say, Blake Jarwin, then he becomes a security blanket as well as another weapon. And instead of us being completely package of a run package where on first down we know Cowboys are going to run the ball right between the tackles with Zeke Elliott, and everybody knows it, from the opposition to the ball boy to the people in the nosebleed seats. They know exactly what we're going to do. You could go ahead, have Zeke back in there. Zeke could go out wide, or Tony Pollard. And now all of a sudden you go from a 2 tight end set that looks like a running play to having basically 5 wideouts. And if they're in an 8, men in the box and you shift out of that, you side Semi out there with CD, you bring Zeke out of the backfield back there. I've got trips right. I've got Amari Cooper on the left. They're in a heavy package. I've got linebackers that are going to have to cover these guys. You don't think that that's an advantage that the offense could take? Because our problem was we got stale. And as crazy as it is, a 12 personnel formation gives the Cowboys advantages that they don't have in other ones. So I have to thank Dan Orlovsky for actually making the light bulb go off, along with the idea and the concept of Semi being a hybrid tight end wide receiver, that this is kind of the innovation that the Dallas Cowboys actually need. Think back, when we talk about innovations that change games. When Miami came out with the Wildcat, when it first came out, it was doing actually some damage. Everybody started doing a form of the Wildcat. Eventually got defenses caught up. When the pistol offense came out, boom, it ended up making some damages. It made RG3 the rookie of the year. Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl with it. When you think about when Joe Gibbs went to Washington and he took the fullback and made him the H-back, which was a hybrid between tight end and fullback, that won them 3 Super Bowls. And innovation is something that the Dallas Cowboys have not had. And maybe, just maybe, Kellen Moore is thinking about something just like that. You dissect the season at the end of the year and say, what did we do good? And what can we take from that thing that we did good, and how can we improve on it? So now it's a matter of, if this is what they're looking at doing, and I highly hope that they are, how can we get the best personnel to fit it? Now, the final piece of this is again, if you look at it and say, I've got CD and, I've got Semi as the tight end hybrid, if we do keep Dalton Schultz, okay, that you still do have that. And if you look at it from a standpoint of saying we're going to run more 12 personnel, then maybe you do get away with not having Amari Cooper, because you do have a CD, and you do have a Gallup, and you do have a Blake Jarwin, and you have an offense that can basically go pass run at the line of scrimmage. So that's all I got to say about that. I hope you guys are going to have a great day. I've got work to do in the workshop here. I've got more of the racks that we are doing, racks, as well as, I'm having a brain fart here, as well as the butcher blocks. Shout out to my man, Alexander Negron. Appreciate the picture and the stuff from you, man. You look happy with it. I love making people happy. That is one thing that if I could make one person happy a day, then my day has been made. And with that being said, it's time for me to get ready to roll out of here and get the other work done. And how are we going to end this? How about this one? Let's go with an oldie but goodie.
I fire Howie. Fucking fire him. Motherfucker! Stupid motherfucker! What an idiot! What an idiot! Dallas has Amari Cooper and Gallup, but we don't need a receiver. Are you kidding me? I don't want Justin Jefferson. He's ass. He's stupid. I fire his ass. I fire his ass. I mean, Howie's got to be stupid. What are you doing? You just let Dallas take him. You